Oliver, welcome back. Where have you been?
Hey Matt, it's good to see you. It's been a while. Oliver, you wanted to say hello?
Yeah, good to see you, Matt, and good to be back on the platform again. We weren't gone too long. Post the last success, we only waited a matter of a couple of days before we got back into the saddle, working very hard on this next thing, which we're excited to talk to you guys about.
Fantastic. I look forward to that because I think everyone thought you would disappear to the beach, but you didn't leave it too long. Look,
So
today,
we had about 12 hours at the beach, but then we had to get back to work. So the grass isn't growing under our feet, that's for sure. We're moving.
yeah, well, I'm excited. I'm excited because you've got a few things going on, Paul, and Oliver with this, with America's gold and silver. This feels like a turnaround story again, and you've got a bit of a track record going there, Paul.
You look at a model that's proven, tested, done. Look at Klondike, you look at Karora. Why not rinse and repeat and do the same thing over again? And this is exactly what it is, Matt. You're 100% correct. This is a turnaround story. And look, we've been at the helm here. I think it's been 28 days today. So just under a month for the team here. And I'm very, very proud. In 28 days or less than a month, we've managed to accomplish a lot. We've been moving at stellar speeds here. We've managed to unitize the Galena asset rather than having a share structure where it's 40% owned by Eric Sprott and 60% by the company. We now own 100% of this asset, which is very important. We've made changes at the board level, at the very top of the board. We've consolidated a new board. We have a new executive team in place. We managed to raise $50 million of equity in the first 5 minutes we were there. We're in the process of restructuring some debt terms at the moment. So in that first month, we've been moving so fast so that the outcome could be very similar to what we did at Klondike and Beta Hunt. And I'll focus more on Beta Hunt, where we turned around an asset that was struggling to successfully deliver 25,000 tons of ore a day. And over time, everyone knows if you just look at the story, look at the numbers, Beta Hunt, we ended up well over 100,000 tons of ore over a couple years. But that repeat story of getting the operational success and focusing on the operations with the help of a new team is where we're headed here. So in a very quick time frame, I'm very pleased to say that we're on the right track. So anybody coming in here, and look, we took, a lot of us have taken a lot of our success at Karora, and we've reinvested it here. Personally, I've deployed the biggest position I've ever had in my life. It's not hard to check on CDI, and you will see this is by far, in my 37 years of mining, and my family doesn't get smaller, Matt. I still got those 7 kids, and I'm fostering one, so 8 kids, so it doesn't get smaller, so I need to make sure that I'm still working at the helm. So I'll turn it over. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was about to say, like, I get the turnaround story, and there's a lot of parallels to what you've done before, and not just at Beta Hunt, but and Karora, but Klondike as well. So Klondike, I should say. What I'm interested in though is trying to understand, what you've inherited, what you saw as the problems, and what you think you need to do. So you've made some decisions very quickly in the first 28 days. So maybe you can run us through that. Where did it start? Where's it going to end?
Let me just start by saying it's been a very rapid 20 days. However, it's important to say that, look, we've been looking at this for some time. We didn't just buy it at the cuff here. So personally, I was actually involved in this story for well over 18 months. And how was I involved? Our good friend Eric Sprott owned 40% of the Galena mine. About 18 months, it was actually about 20 months ago, I was asked to step in as an advisor for him on the technical part of his 40%. So I had been attending meetings and I had been to site a number of times while we were still obviously running Karora. So it was an opportunity for me to really get ahead and start to understand some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, and just say, well, what is it? When we sold Karora, Matt, look, Oliver had 2 CEO jobs in front of him. I had at least 3 of them. Mike Doolin had offers. Every one of the team had different offers. We chose this. We did our own due diligence. We've only been there 20 days. Our DD lasted at least 9 to 12 months ourselves. We wrote big checks into this story ourselves. And the advantage I had over the rest of the team was I was even involved much longer than them because I was an advisor, a technical advisor for Eric Sprott's 40%. So I know it sounds like a lot done in 28 days because it is. Unitizing the asset, for example, people had been trying to do that for years. I knew about it because I was Eric's advisor. I know the companies that were knocking on the door saying, Derek, I'll buy your 40%. There were a lot of interested parties. Unitizing that asset, we roll it off the top of our tongues like saying, okay, it's done. But that was not an easy thing to accomplish. You had to work with their board, you had to work with Eric Sprott, you had to work with the group that can actually get it done. And we did get that done. So that was not a simple thing to do. Now, what do we see in the future? Well, it's a lot of the exact same old story. It's mining 101. Don't complicate this. What are we doing today? We're actually getting 365 tons of ore a day. Where do we want to get to? We would like to get to 1,000 to 1,200 tons a day. And let's just talk about what that mine has been able to do. In 2002, that mine produced 5 million ounces of silver. If we were producing 5 million ounces of silver today, we'd be a $1.5 to $1.7 billion company when you add on our Mexican asset. If we were there today, the mine has been producing about 1.2 million ounces of silver for the last 6-7 years. It's been in this lull, and it's, again, the same operational thing. We need to look at the mining method, change the mining method. Our neighbors next door are doing 100% of their mining all long hole. We're doing 0 long hole. So there's a lot of opportunity here for us, low-hanging fruit. It's in our backyard. I don't have to travel to Canada. I don't have to travel to Australia. It's in my backyard. Me and Mike Doolan could be on the mine site. Oliver's supporting us, as you know, from wherever he is, Toronto, anywhere. And the rest of the team are all still together. So for me, I'm very excited, hence why I've written the biggest checks of my career.
Okay, so what you dealt with is a bunch of egos in the room, but managed to come to some kind of solution, some sort of resolution as to what this thing needs to be. But I'm trying to, what I need to kind of be confident of, this isn't about the asset being wrong. It was a timing issue, silver price issue. I mean, silver price has only really been performing in the last 18, 24 months. Did they get themselves into a hole because of technical issues? Was it market issues? How does that asset actually stand up going forward?
Listen, the truth is the thing was starved for capital. There's no denying that. The company was focused on another asset. You look at the company's name, America's Gold and Silver. We're a silver company, full stop. But we were trying to diversify into the gold when silver did drop to $11. And this is pre-us. This is 8-10 years ago. I think Oliver might have even looked at it when he was GMP 10-15 years ago. But the reality is all the money was focused, and the team and the efforts were focused on Relief Canyon. Relief Canyon is a gold asset in Nevada, near Lovelock. It doesn't matter its location. The reality, it's in a good spot, but they broke their pick there. They put a lot of money into that, put a lot of effort into that, spent over $100 million at getting the mine up and running. It didn't produce. It failed. It was unfortunately a technical issue there. But because all the money was spent there, there was no focus at Galena, no focus in Mexico. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Galena today. We will talk about Mexico. This is our first call, Matt. So we wanted to just introduce the company. So because there was no capital, you don't get the right team. The focus of the management team, you can imagine, they were laser-like focused on getting that gold mine up and running, and it was going to become the savior. It was going to then fund the rest of the company. It was going to write checks for the next 5 to 7 years, and everything was going to be glorious. Unfortunately, when that failed, you found yourself in a situation where, while we starved the other ones for capital, which had already been done, and there wasn't strong enough leadership. So two major important things in our industry, or any industry for that matter. If you're undercapitalized, which we were, and if you don't have the right leadership, which we didn't at that mine. We did not have the right leadership at that mine. And we're putting in a strong team, and we've got some amazing people at that mine. I will tell you this. I will say that I have spent, in my first 30 days, I've been at the mine 10 days. We've got some amazing people that are willing to work hard, that want to be part of a successful team. They need somebody to lead them to success. The team's already in place. We've already put a new leadership team there. And we're already seeing tremendous turnarounds already in a very brief time frame.
Okay, so leadership team is in place. We saw those kind of board new board members. You're going to focus on Galena primarily. I know you've got other assets in the portfolio in Mexico. We'll talk about that another time. Does the Galena asset have what it takes to be a meaningful, silver producer going forward? Have you got enough data to suggest that?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the track record of, again, what that mine has done historically, Paul mentioned it, right? 2002 peaked at over 5 million ounces. One of the things that we said and we delivered on at Beta Hunt was there wasn't a single historical metric that we knew that we couldn't match and or beat. And obviously the proof was in the pudding at Beta Hunt over the 5 years that we had it at Karora, and we delivered and certainly exceeded by a country mile all of those metrics. What we're going back to, as Paul mentioned, is mining 101. A lot of the challenges that are currently at Galena are solvable with the right technical and operational leadership in place, with the good hardworking people that are there now, with the right capital, with the right vision. So we're taking it back to basics. The infrastructure that's in place currently at Galena is tremendous. There's over 55 miles of underground development. You remember what we used to talk about at Beta Hunt, 200 kilometers of existing underground development. The same recipe applies here. There's 4 shafts, 5 if you include an internal shaft, that are there, one of which is doing the majority of the hosting, and a second one which is in operation as well. There is a lot of low-hanging fruit around those shafts. We've got a shaft expert in place as a project leader right now who's looking at optimizing what we already have. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we do here, and it's the same approach we took at Beta Hunt, is to make sure that we're doing trade-off studies in every aspect of the operation to make sure we're taking the right approach to allocating our capital. So what we're running right now is a trade-off study on how to best move tons underground, and that goes right from the face all the way to the shaft, and then how to optimize both the hoist motors that we're using, the hoisting schedule, the operators that are there, upgrading some of the equipment, modernizing the mine, bringing in new processes. So when Paul mentions us taking it up north of 1,000 tons per day, those are the ways that we're going to get there. But the most important thing is to leverage what we already have. And this mine is incredibly well endowed when it comes to infrastructure. That's the underground side of things. On surface, there's not one, there's 2 mills. If you remember the beginning of Karora, when we took over Beta Hunt, we had no mill. The first transaction we did was acquire Higginsville. Well, this time we've inherited 2 mills here. We've got a total processing capacity north of 1,200 tons per day. Only one of those mills is in operation currently, and it's only operation about 3 to 4 days per week. So the first project there at the mill is how to optimize procedures there, get that up to running 7 days per week, and then start to evaluate the second mill further down the road. Not only that, but when you look at the history of the operation, Matt, you mentioned silver prices. So silver prices certainly harmed this operation, hence the strategic shift to focus on gold by the company in the past. Silver prices were depressed. Lead prices were not. So one of the areas, there's 2 types of concentrates and 2 types of ore that are mined at Galena. One is a silver lead ore, and the other one is a silver copper ore. The higher silver grades are actually in the silver copper ore. What the management team did when silver prices were depressed was they focused on the silver lead ore because lead prices were certainly decent, and that's where they could generate more cash flow. Fast forward through to today, obviously silver prices, and I'm sure your listeners, your audience, your investors have just as constructive a view on silver as we do. But when you start to look at where the higher silver grades are now, we're starting to push back into that silver copper ore. So we'll be producing 2 concentrates, in the future at this operation, and bringing those silver grades back up, moving more tons, as Paul said, underground, moving them the right way, the safe way. And that's how we're going to get this operation back up to what is a very significant silver output when you look at the grand scheme of the producers that are in the space. And all that is what we'll be executing over the next several years here. So phase 1 right now is putting our heads down, getting that technical work done, coming on platforms such as this and talking to your investors about what we're going to do. Why should you believe us? Well, look at what we've done in the past. And we'll be taking that diligent approach. But to answer your question in a very long way, it is an asset with tremendous potential, a huge resource base, incredible exploration potential, and the right people in the right place at the right time in the right metal.
Okay, so you got a bit of work to do in terms of making those assessments, putting those studies together and working at how you do it, the order of which you do it, what it's going to cost you. When, though, are you going to be able to kind of lay that out for the market so we understand the time frames we're talking about?
Yeah, so we'll start off with the traditional sort of 1 year guidance here. Towards the end of March, we'll be putting out the 2024 results. We'll be talking to the market about what we're going to be doing this year, and then we'll be taking a disciplined approach. Look, all of this stuff, we can't get this done in the next 3 weeks. Some of this is going to take time, and there's other aspects that we're looking at here when it comes to backfill systems and other things underground that we want to optimize. So we'll put that out into the market once we've got those firm answers and we know what our capital plan is. Phase 1 is going to be 2025. What are we going to be doing this year? And then we're going to start talking about growth in the years after that. And of course, as you know, one of the things that we had, which is a huge asset for us at Karora, was a great following from analysts on the street. So we're going to be ramping up research coverage, and those analysts will start to put out numbers in terms of what they see in the growth plan over the coming years. So I imagine over the next several times that we come to talk to you here, we're going to have more and more that we can talk about, but we're going to do it in a disciplined way, and we're going to set targets and objectives that we know we can deliver on.
Right, and obviously given the history of where the company's come from, getting the balance sheet tidied up, sorted out, getting the portfolio tidied up, sorted out, is going to be really, really important to kind of drive some of those efficiencies, but also give people confidence that you're focused on the right things. So how are you going about that process?
Yeah, so right out of the gate, we raised that $50 million of equity. And again, we, the board, all of us put in some big money to that. We're in the final phases here now of looking at a very decent debt facility. And then it's about getting the mine up and running. It's about doing what we do best. Where we should be getting the money is from the mine. And we're in the process of doing that already. And one thing we touched on real quickly early on, Matt, was Mexico. And I want to say why we're not as focused today about Mexico, only because we've got a very strong, powerful, mature, professional team there. Our team in Mexico, I spent quite a bit of time in Mexico, obviously doing the DD myself personally. I was there during quite a bit of time. I'll leave it at that. But the reality is the team in Mexico is a very, very strong team. Mexico generates free cash flow in the company, and that helps us. So we can focus and deploy our efforts to Galena while our team in Mexico are doing what they do best. And in their eyes, in their view, it's just about getting to the EC 120, and we're getting there in the third and fourth quarter. And when we get there, that thing generates about over $20 million of free cash flow this year. So our Mexican assets are on good footing. They just need some drilling. It's another situation where we've got all these outcropping stuff, no drilling in 10 years. No drilling at Galena for 10 years, no drilling in Mexico for 10 years. And as Oliver pointed out, we've got a strong resource base. We're in the Silver Valley. You are not going to find a better zip code in the United States for silver. We're surrounded by silver operators. So, and we haven't talked about two things yet that are just icing. Look, I'll say when we did our due diligence, we did it for one reason. We came here and we didn't go somewhere else, and why we kept the team together, because we believed there was the most torque for our shareholders. We believe those people that were going to follow us are going to be successful again, as we are going to be as well. We believed we could get the mine from that 360 tons a day to well over 1,000 tons a day after doing all the steps we talked about doing. Something we hadn't really noticed, or we weren't completely aware of, that has come to our attention in the first 30 days is the antimony and copper. Look, we do have antimony. We produce antimony. We're one of the only, I think we are the only silver producing, we are the only producer of antimony in the US today. We have guys all around us. Every mine around us have got $150 million of debt secured with the DOD. Exim, other groups are out towards 1.5 billion. There's another group that announced 75 million. Everybody around us who is coming online, and they've got great assets, but they're coming online. We're actually there and we're producing it. We can see from our assays what we did. Mike Doolin, in his first week there, went back to the assays and looked at our concentrate. We were able to determine the amount of antimony we've produced since 2000. The last known antimony mine in the US stopped in 2000. Since 2000, we have produced over 15 million pounds of antimony. If you look at today's price, man, just use today's prices, that's over $240 million of antimony that we just said goodbye to. Just gone. So on an annual basis, this antimony, it's meaningful. Given what's happening and how critical it is as a mineral, that is tremendous icing on the cake for us. And our copper, we've been a silver copper story forever. We don't get paid for our copper. That is going to stop. We have to get paid for our copper. We've got to look at antimony. We're a ways away from getting these done, but they are extremely exciting for us, and things that we need to resolve.
Okay, so you'll refine that process and work out what the payables could look like for copper and antimony. I think that could be super exciting. And as you know more, I'm sure you'll tell us. So it's just if I can bounce back to Casala, if you don't mind, what you're saying there, it is a self-funding operation at the moment in terms of what it needs to do in terms of exploration, and also what it needs to do maybe with regards to EC 120. Is that what you're saying? There's no stress on the rest of the organization? With
an extremely mature, talented team. When you go to Mexico and you see our team, you go, Jesus, wow. The average turnover in Mexico is less than 3% at our mine. The tenure, most people at low end is 8 years. Some of them have been there up to 14 years. This thing was always funding on its own. In fact, it was funding corporate office. For years, it was funding things. So our Mexican asset is a true gem. It's not something we're throwing away. We're not talking about it because we don't care. We do care. Our focus has to be, we've got to be laser-like focused on where we see the most opportunity. Mexico, it's about supporting our team, making sure they have what they need, and giving them the autonomy to do what they do best.
Right. Okay. And obviously, been a much more positive mining environment as well with the new president. Okay. So it's part of the story going forward, but we're going to focus, laser focus on Galena. Okay, understood. Well, look, gentlemen, look, I'm not going to take much more of your time because I know you've got quite a few meetings lined up today. You're obviously going to be meeting a lot more of these institutional boys and girls to get into this story. So look, I appreciate talking to us, but I'd love it if you can come back and maybe even get into the weeds with regards to the specific assets and exactly how you're going to go about, releasing that value. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to see you. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Pat.